We have some gruesome new details in the suspected murder of 4 University of Idaho students. Moscow police now say the students were likely killed in a targeted attack and that the suspect or suspects used an edged weapon like a knife. Bodies of the 4 students were found Sunday afternoon inside a house near the university's campus. 3 of the victims were from Idaho and another was from Conway, Washington.
It even involves human weaponizing. Okay, so the weaponizing of a human brain, which is the case of Bryan Kohberger, the person that they have in jail currently.
Not at all.
Showed zero remorse. Not one bit. He's like a robot, a killing robot.
Catherine Ramsland. Dr. Ramsland was one of Kohberger's professors back at DeSales University in Pennsylvania.
I have questions for him that I think nobody else but me could ask.
DM told police that she looked at Mr. Kohberger's arrest picture and did not recognize him.
Why didn't they call? Like, I still can't wrap my head. And she goes, I don't know, Mom. I think they were cleaning up or whatever. And I'm like, cleaning up what? And she says, I don't know, maybe drugs. I don't know. But as time's gone on and things have come out, and there's the lack of evidence in anywhere but the bedrooms. There's some in the kitchen, I think, and there is that likely cleaning meant they were cleaning the house, cleaning up evidence, cleaning up getting things thrown away, picking. The amount of blood that must have been there throughout the house must have been huge.
And understand, folks, that that house took 9 days to process the entire crime scene. 9 days. Okay.
Correct. Right.
A spotlight is placed on Kohberger to ensure all attention is on him and no one else. They want us focused on him so that they can get away with everything unnoticed.
A new angle to the story you saw first from 4 News Now today. Public records from Latah County show a connection to the King Road house we never knew about until today. The president of UNI has a family connection to it. In fact, his family used to own it. Well, the man who was thrust into the national spotlight when 4 University of Idaho students were murdered is retiring from the Moscow Police Department. 54-year-old James Fry spent the last 8 years of his 30-year career as the chief of the Moscow Police Department. But he's not leaving law enforcement, he's just taking a different approach.
Ethan Chapin was killed in the doorway of Xana Kernodle's room before the killer set upon Xana. The sources say that it appeared Ethan had stepped partly into the hallway where the attack may have begun. These sources also say that Ethan Chapin suffered a slash to the neck. But I have to say that both of these details are in direct conflict with what the coroner had originally told us right here on this program exclusively. And also, they conflict directly with what police have said as well.
A mass agenda to keep the public focused on Kohberger is leaving the masses, including the victims' parents, confused about what actually happened. When you zoom out, the bigger picture becomes clear. But many, including Steve Gonsalves, haven't seen it yet. Meanwhile, the real culprits are getting away.
Photos or blood or gore or anything like that, but I need to know the facts of what, how many times was my daughter stabbed? Was she choked? What happened? And that should be part of our victim's statement. And they're robbing us and they're protecting the killer still. To this day, they're still protecting a guy.
And admitted to killing her.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to us.
They aren't protecting him. They're protecting themselves.
I seem to recall there was some discussion that the judge was going to meet with families and tell you privately things that were going to be released in the gag order. Is that still a possibility, or is there no discussion of that?
There's no discussion of that. Clearly, the willpower isn't there. I don't think they really want anyone talking to the media and questioning. Remember, these people said that it was a crime of passion, it was targeted, and it was an isolated event, all this language. And then they even said, you're going to have to trust us. You're just going to have to wait and trust us. And now we've waited. And it's like, no. Well, there was no connection whatsoever that we could establish. So how do you get isolated? How do you get targeted? So I think it's more about covering up some of the mistakes that they made.
I think it's more about covering up some of the mistakes that they made.
They don't want to talk about destroying the crime scene and how questionable that was. So they just say, well, we're gagged. And now that the gag's over, you guys aren't going to know exactly what we were talking about during the last 2.5 years.
Although Steve acknowledges some of the suspicious behavior surrounding the case, he refers to them as mere mistakes. Clearly, the effort to keep the victim's parents and the public in a state of confusion has been highly effective.
The murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
For the murder of Kaylee Gonsalves, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
The murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
The murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Kohberger may have been sentenced to prison, but something still feels off. Am I the only one who feels this way? That this isn't truly resolved? The real killers are still out there. The secrecy, the mishandling of evidence by the town, it all seems to have been swept under the rug with Kohberger's sentencing. This is exactly what they wanted. No cameras, no real evidence shown.
Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times.
Just a plea deal to make it all disappear. That was the plan from the start. And the courtroom is just like any other court. A tennis or basketball court, but this time, Kohberger is the ball. If you haven't seen it by now, you may never see it. Kohberger is the distraction, keeping attention away from a corrupt town deeply entangled in one of the most disturbing murder cases of the 21st century.
Ethan Chapin's memory continues to live on in new ways. Ethan and his family spent many summers here at the Hills Resort at Priest Lake, but this summer would be the first without him. But now and for every summer, there's a special place to remember and celebrate his life. Hills Resort says the Chapins have been guests through multiple generations.
Their family has been coming forever.
Marketing and event specialist Whitney Hutchins would know.
I'm also one of the family members, so I grew up here in third generation.
Plenty of people come and go at the resort, but Ethan Chapin made a lasting impact as a guest, employee, and friend.
Losing Ethan was tremendous. I mean, that loss is tremendous. And
Kohberger reportedly had a blank stare as he was arrested and also asked if anyone else had been taken into custody.
Patsy told us the gag order served its purpose.
Was it good that there was this gag order? Did it let some of the theories spread?
Oh, I think the gag order was a good deal.
I don't need to know anything else.
And you don't think the public needs to know?
I know there's pieces of it they don't need to know. It's not for public consumption.
Mm-hmm. And why would you need to know it? I mean, what's the gain on that, right? There's zero gain.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call. And then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer. Painting anyone as a wrongdoer.
even without solid proof, is effective, and sadly, it's a common playbook. First, they dig into your past. Then they interview your friends. And without presenting any real evidence, they shape a narrative that makes you appear guilty in the public eye.
And one of the witnesses that they want to call is one of the surviving roommates. Take a look. This was a motion. Bryan, the killer, the accused killer.
During Bryan Kohberger's guilty plea hearing, prosecutor Bill Thompson openly admitted that there was no concrete evidence, just cell phone tower data cited in the affidavit, which is notoriously unreliable.
Related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. The weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found.
Thompson also made statements that directly contradict what the coroner reportedly told Steve Gonsalves. For example, Thompson claimed that there was no sexual contact, while Gonsalves says that the coroner told him otherwise.
Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation.
Did someone with the investigation describe that Kaylee or Maddie was gagged during this horrible crime?
I was told that by somebody in, I can give that out. That was Babbitt. That was Babbitt who gave that information. This individual was sexually motivated. I don't care what Thompson said. They've got a plan for him. They've got a job role for that man.
Additionally, it appears Thompson and the state intentionally delayed the trial and then blamed defense attorney Ann Taylor, possibly to push the timeline beyond the statute of limitations, thereby preventing the victims' families from filing civil lawsuits.
Which leads me to another question. There are still civil avenues open to you, a wrongful death suit against Bryan Kohberger. Do you and your attorney, Shannon Gray, plan to mount any kind of action after this, or are you done?
I think a lot of their strategy for this sealing and gagging was because they were afraid of the civil actions. But those are mostly have to be brought up within 2 years. And it's hard to bring something up that you're not been able to even look at. Like, we don't even know who made the decision and what was all done. So I think this was a strategy for them to cover up their tails and the university's ass. And, there's two huge universities there. One, they literally sent the students back saying it was an isolated, targeted event. And literally the murder was hired by one of the universities and was literally in a position of power who had already harassed girls. And they hadn't even taken those investigation seriously. So yeah, there was a lot, people need to look back when he was fired. He was fired on the 19th. That's the exact same day that the police said that the FBI told them that Bryan was a suspect. It's kind of more than suspicious that, WSU fired him that exact same day while he was out on the, back in Pennsylvania. They fired him. So obviously they heard about what was going on, and it was cover their tails. And that's why we have all this sealed stuff. And I appreciate the media because, it's one thing an angry dad saying that. It's a different thing for, ex-prosecutors to get on your guys' station and say, this is questionable. Why'd they tear the house down? There's literally the 1112 video is referencing sounds in that house. So, it could easily be that a jury wanted to reproduce what those sounds would have sounded like on that camera. And they couldn't do that once the house was torn down.
This was planned from the very beginning. They pushed to have the house torn down with the promise that they already had their guy. They deliberately delayed the trial for 2.5 years, and even now, there's still no clear motive or real evidence. Is that a coincidence? Based on the evidence Thompson presented, he doesn't have anything that meets the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt to convict Kohberger. If this case had gone to trial, Kohberger likely would have walked free. But they never wanted it to reach trial because all of their dark secrets would have been exposed. The university president, the coroner, former chief James Fry, Thompson, and many others are all a part of a colluded, corrupt organization behind this case. This has clearly been a sham, a deliberate ambush to prevent true justice from being served. The destruction of the home, the cover-ups, the lack of evidence, and motive. It's clear they never had a case to begin with. This is what I like to call BK Ultra.
His MK Ultra program, a psychopathic, sadistic program that ran throughout the 60s, probably is still running today.
MK Ultra, it was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control people's behavior without their knowledge. Their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command, popularly known as Manchurian candidates, after a book that was written in 1962 and later became a movie and then a movie again. The people would be, through drugs and hypnotism, the objective was to get people to go and commit an act of murder against their moral code and have no memory of their programming and be amnesic even of the act after the fact often.
In which Americans and even government agents alike were drugged and sometimes murdered with the aim of brainwashing the masses.
MK Ultra was a covert experiment that gained notoriety in the 1960s. Initiated by the CIA, the project began with experiments on animals to explore the possibility of controlling the brain. One notable case involved a bull. Scientists were reportedly able to manipulate its actions, directing it toward a target, ordering it to stop instantly, making it spin back up, and even erasing its own memory on command. The goal was essentially to create a controllable weapon of mass destruction. These methods were eventually transferred to human subjects. The CIA allegedly deployed mind-controlled individuals to carry out acts of mass violence, creating public fear, distractions, or conducting psychological experiments. This was the case with Charles Manson and many others. These were all ordinary people at one point. But when you examine their backgrounds, many of them changed after attending a university, spending time in a prison institution, or coming into contact with certain doctors. That's because these environments are often the government's primary targets for experimentation. Federal programs have existed within universities where students were unknowingly used as subjects for covert agendas. In fact, over 80 institutions, including Ivy League schools, hospitals, and research centers, were documented to have participated in CIA mind control studies. These institutions serve as breeding grounds for psychological manipulation, particularly targeting those most vulnerable to influence. Take Luigi, for example, a high-achieving Ivy League student who broke his back, met with a doctor, and later turned assassin. When police found him, he was casually sitting in a McDonald's with the weapon and a note in hand. Mission complete.
What are you going to do? And it's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and its lived experience.
A chaotic scene outside a Pennsylvania courthouse as police escort a screaming Luigi Mangione inside. The 26-year-old, officially charged in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Bryan Thompson, outside his hotel in New York City.
Just like with the bull experiment, they can erase memory, apply psychological pressure, or even threaten families to force compliance. The system is designed to control and conceal.
Catherine Ramsland.
Do you guys feel he's been remorseful?
No,
No,
not at all.
He's shown zero remorse. Not one bit. He's like a robot, a killing robot.
And, you know, I knew other people that dealt drugs, and we would deliver drugs to him a lot. And so that's when I heard about this case. I haven't heard from him in so long. And then I heard about this, and it said that he was going to college. I said, I haven't heard from him. I guess that's what he's been doing. He must have cleaned up. I know he was in and out of rehab a couple times, but he really did. He cleaned up and was going to college all these years.
The objective was to get people to go.
It even involves human weaponizing. Okay, so the weaponizing of a human brain, which is the case of Bryan Kohberger, the person that they have in jail currently.
After his arrest, Kohberger's former professor and academic advisor at DeSales University, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, reportedly reached out to his family. Kohberger pursued his master's degree in criminal justice at DeSales University in Pennsylvania, enrolling in 2018 and graduating in 2022. During this time, he studied under Dr. Ramsland, a renowned forensic psychologist and author of more than 50 books on serial killers, including the extensive work on the BTK killer. Her research earned her the opportunity to collaborate closely with FBI profilers. Dr. Ramsland is known for her brilliance in understanding the psychology of murderers. But there's a deeper layer, often overlooked. Her access to notorious killers wasn't only academic. It was, in some ways, experimental. The lines between study and influence may not have been as clear as they seemed. In the late 1990s, after years of profiling, interviews with FBI agents, and violent offenders, she became obsessed with one question. If trauma, manipulation, and environment can shape a killer, could it also be reverse engineered? With her background and influence, is it possible that she created her own version of MKUltra? Was she also involved in the MKUltra mind control experimentation?
If they do. So if he wanted to do that, I know that he's got the intellectual capacity to do it, to be self-reflective, to help think through how his life came to this. And so I would definitely do it if he were willing. And it would be hard. But I think because I have so much material from him, I have questions for him that I think nobody else but me could ask.
According to an article by Howard Blum, Dr. Catherine Ramsland stayed in contact with Bryan Kohberger even after he graduated from DeSales University. The two reportedly exchanged emails, and Ramsland even reached out to Kohberger's mother following his arrest. Now ask yourself this. Why would a professor continue communicating with the former student after graduation to the point of contacting his family? When questioned about this, Ramsland denied staying in contact with Kohberger himself and only admitted to reaching out to his family. Yet, she have also claimed to have so much material from him. What exactly does that mean?
Catherine Ramsland. Dr. Ramsland was one of Kohberger's professors back at DeSales University in Pennsylvania. When Bryan Kohberger earned a master's degree in criminal justice, it was at DeSales. Ramsland teaches forensic psychology and has written more than 50 books. The article also suggests that Dr. Ramsland and Kohberger stayed in touch after he left DeSales University and moved out west, that they emailed each other after the murders, and that Ramsland called Kohberger's mother after he was arrested. So what does Dr. Ramsland say about the story and all the details contained within it? Not quite.
Why did Ramsland have private specific questions intended only for Bryan? What were those conversations about? Let's also consider the physical strength it would take to murder 4 people. Dylan, one of the surviving roommates, told police she saw the intruder, yet when presented a photo of Bryan Kohberger, she reportedly said she didn't recognize him. If she had seen him face to face, wouldn't she have known?
The reliability is not there. The state wants to bolster a person who admittedly has no clear memory with a photo of Mr. Kohberger to say, this is the person she identified. DM told police that she looked at Mr. Kohberger's arrest picture and did not recognize him. The state cannot run around her unreliability by entering into evidence a photo to show it's a person that she says she cannot identify, because the state's interpretation is that Mr. Kohberger's photo shows bushy eyebrows. That is misleading to the jury. It will confuse the jury. It will be putting words into the mouth of DM that do not exist.
The DoorDash driver claims to have seen Kohberger and said he parked in the front. Meanwhile, Prosecutor Thompson said Kohberger parked in the back.
The defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked.
It's hard to imagine that Bryan Kohberger just parked right in front of the house. I have to say I'm a little skeptical of this whole story. Just the way that it came out through the body camera video, the fact that in all of the police documents that we've been able to see in the probable cause, we knew there was a DoorDash driver, Ashley, but if they had a real credible witness who saw Bryan Kohberger at the house, that is huge. How would we not know that by now? It's possible it's just like a bombshell that they're saving for the trial, but don't you think maybe that would have been in the probable cause, or in all these court hearings that we've been to where we get new little nuggets? I would have thought maybe we would have heard about that by now.
These contradictions, along with the absence of definitive evidence, raises serious questions. The case against Kohberger simply doesn't meet the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. If you're still not convinced, why would a sitting president involve himself in a state-level murder case? Unless there's something deeper going on. Presidents don't waste time on everyday crime, unless it ties into something bigger. Is it a distraction? Is he signaling something to insiders? Or is this part of a broader cover-up, hinting that the case is more than just one man goes into a house and knifes 4 people? When people in power speak on local matters, especially with sealed records and gag orders, it's rarely innocent.
Live now from Fox, I am Andy Mack. Ahead of the sentencing of Bryan Kohberger after pleading guilty in the murder of the 4 University of Idaho students. Still, many people are asking what happened that fateful night in Moscow, Idaho, including the President of the United States. He posted this on social media saying Bryan Kohberger was responsible in Idaho for the deaths of those 4 wonderful young souls, has made a plea bargain in order to avoid the death penalty. These were vicious murders with so many questions left unanswered. While life imprisonment is tough, it's certainly better than receiving the death penalty. But before sentencing, I hope the judge makes Kohberger at minimum explain why he did these horrible murders. There's no explanations. There is nothing. People should be shocked as they were able to plea bargain, but the judge should make him explain exactly what happened.
Shut your mouth.
Wow.
That's what it's called. Shut your mouth. And Kaylee and Maddie got in trouble because they were running their mouth.
Just think about it. Prosecutor Bill Thompson admitted they don't have the murder weapon, a motive, or solid evidence. And yet, Bryan is still expected to plead guilty? Only a Patsy would take that kind of deal. It's clear they don't want certain truths coming to light. But what are they desperate to hide? Whatever it is, it must be big. Big enough to lie, destroy, and even kill to protect. Something tied to money and freedom.
Kohberger has maintained he did not break into the home on King Road and stab those 4 students. He's essentially claimed that he was a patsy and that law enforcement was under pressure to make a quick arrest. He's essentially claimed that he was a patsy.
And now, while the victim's family speak to the so-called killer, the real culprits sit back in comfort,
Dylan, just take your time,
smiling
right?
knowing they have deceived the public.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Honor. What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, 4 beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason.
Your Honor, next would be members from the Kaylee Gonsalves family. First will be her father, Steve Gonsalves.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families.
Hi, my name's Randy, stepdad of Xana. You, man, I don't know what my limits are here, but I'm really struggling, dude. I am struggling, so I wanna just be out in the woods with you just so I can teach you about loss and pain. I love God. I wouldn't take your life, that's up to him. But I guarantee you, you are weak. God, I would just give a moment, man, 5 minutes out in the woods. Oh man, you're gonna go to hell. I know people believe in other stuff. You're evil. There's no place for you in heaven. You took our children. You are gonna suffer, man. I'm shaking because I want to reach out to you, but I hope you feel my energy, okay? Go to hell.
That goes to say that the impact of what happened to them, all 4 kids, goes so much further than just not me, the parents, the families, the community. It goes so far because a lot of kids, in the colleges, just for an example, they lock their doors now. The door wasn't locked in the back. Penn State or wherever it was, all the colleges I know that I've heard, they all lock their doors now.
With the aim of brainwashing the masses.
Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Well,
Brainwashing the masses. That was their plan from the start. And even now, there's still no clear motive. Even during the police Q&A press conference, they couldn't explain how they determined Kohberger was the one who committed the crime.
your department was saying this was a targeted attack. Can you now say who was the target and what's your evidence to show that?
I'll turn that question over to the investigators to answer that one.
Well, I think Darren and I have, the evidence suggested that there was a reason that this particular house was chosen. What that reason is, we don't know. There was a reason that this particular house was chosen. What that reason is, we don't know. We don't know who the target was, and we're not going to speculate on that up here today. But we can tell you that for whatever reason, Mr. Kohberger chose that residence.
Greg Fisher with CBS News 48 Hours. Was there any evidence that Kohberger was following the social media of any of the victims?
So, trust us, we wanted that to be the case.
We've looked for a link, and we have not found one. Not one.
Yeah, through the entire investigation, I think that's something that we need, that you want, is to help to understand this and say, well, what's the connection? What was the link? And so we had every resource possible, and we worked that tirelessly, both from everything from his side, but all the victims and all the members of the House from their side. So we have never, to this date, found a single connection between him and any of the 4 victims or the 2 surviving roommates.
While Kohberger was sentenced, this story is far from over. Questions still linger, and the pieces don't quite fit. The real culprits, those pulling strings behind the scenes, are still out there, hidden in plain sight. Until the full truth comes to light, justice remains unfinished.